The wind howled across the stone valley like a wounded spirit. Torches burned along the outer walls of the orc settlement, their flames bending violently as night swallowed the mountains. The clan had gathered in silence, their broad silhouettes forming a circle around the central fire. Tonight was not a celebration, it was a farewell. At the center stood Gratha, once known among the clans as the Storm Daughter. Even now she was taller than most warriors, her emerald skin marked with faint silver scars from battles long past. Thick black hair fell over one shoulder and braided, strands decorated with bone rings. But time, music had not spared her. The elders had spoken. Too many seasons had passed, too many moons without a child. Among orcs, fertility was sacred. A warrior might age, lose strength, even lose honor in battle, and regain it. Welcome to our channel, Beyond the Observable. Here we explore stories that begin where the obvious ends. Please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and tell us where you're listening from. That support helps us music bring you stories that are deeper and more unsettling every time. Let's begin. But a woman who could no longer bear life slowly drifted to the edges of the clan. Grather Music had accepted this fate with the calm dignity of a veteran warrior. Still, something in her eyes tonight burned quietly. Defiance. The clan elder raised his staff and spoke in a low, growly voice. Grather of the Stone Fang clan, the spirits have spoken. Music, your seasons have passed. The clan thanks you for your strength and your victories. The gathered orcs struck their chests once in solemn respect. Grather bowed her head. I hear the spirits, she replied calmly. But as the ceremony ended and the warriors dispersed into the night, a pair of unfamiliar eyes watched from the darkness beyond the gate. Human eyes. His name was Elias Rowan, a traveler who had lost both direction and common sense by wandering into orc territory alone. He had expected death. Instead, he had witnessed something else entirely. A woman the clan treated like a fading legend. When the guards escorted him through the gate earlier that evening, they had laughed at his nervous glances. Stay quiet, music human. One of them had grunted, and perhaps the clan won't eat you. But Elias quickly realized the truth. These were not monsters. Music, they were a people. Now, hours later, he sat beside a small fire in the guest hut trying to understand what he had just seen. Outside, the moon rose over the cliffs. Footsteps approached, heavy, confident. The door curtain lifted. Gratha stepped inside. The torchlight danced across her strong features, illuminating amber eyes that studied the human carefully. For a moment, neither spoke. Elias slowly stood. He realized that up close she was even more striking than he had thought. Not young. Not delicate but powerful. The kind of presence that made the air feel heavier. You watched the ceremony, she said calmly. Her voice was deep and steady, like distant thunder. Elias hesitated, then nodded. I did. Silence lingered. She walked slowly around the room, studying the strange human traveler who had wandered into her clan's territory. You are far from your kind, she observed. I could say the same about you, Elias replied carefully. For the first time, a faint hint of amusement crossed her face. You are bold for a human. I'm terrified, he admitted honestly. That made her chuckle softly. Then her expression changed, more thoughtful now. She looked at the fire for a long moment before speaking again. Tell me, human, she said quietly. Among your people, when a woman grows older, is she also cast aside? Elias frowned. No, he music said. Not like that. Her eyes lifted back to him. For a moment, something vulnerable passed through them. Something she clearly hated revealing. Music. The elders believe the spirits have closed my path to motherhood, she said. Among my people, that is a final judgment. Elias didn't know why he said the next words. Maybe it was the loneliness in her voice. Maybe it was the way the firelight reflected in her eyes. Sometimes, he said slowly, spirits are wrong. The room fell silent. Grather stared at him, a long, searching stare. Then she stepped closer, much closer. Close enough that Elias could see the faint scar across her cheek. "You are a strange human," she murmured. He swallowed. "You came into my land by accident." "Yes, you witnessed a moment meant only for my clan. Also." "Yes." Her gaze softened slightly, "and yet I feel the spirits have guided you here." The fire cracked loudly between them. Outside, the wind howled stronger against the stone walls. Grather studied him for one last long moment. Then she said quietly, "Stay in my dwelling tonight." Elias blinked. "I what?" Her lips curved slightly. "You fear me a little." "You should." She turned toward the doorway, then paused. "But I promise," she said, glancing back at him with an unreadable expression. "You will not regret the night." The torchlight flickered as she stepped into the darkness outside. Elias stood frozen beside the fire. Something told him that the spirits had indeed guided him here, but he had no idea how dramatically his life was about to change, or how one single night would shake the destiny of the entire Stonefang clan. The night deepened over the Stonefang settlement. Clouds slowly swallowed the moon, and the wind carried the distant sound of drums from another part of the camp. Orc warriors celebrated victories loudly, but tonight the sound felt distant, almost hollow. Inside her dwelling, Grather stood beside a large stone basin filled with warm water. Steam curled slowly upward, carrying the scent of mountain herbs. She removed the bone clasps from her braids and let her dark hair fall freely over her shoulders. For the first time that day, she allowed her shoulders to relax. Across the room, Elias Rowan stood awkwardly near the entrance, unsure whether he had just made the most dangerous mistake of his life. The dwelling was larger than he expected. Weapons hung neatly along the walls. A massive fur-covered bed stood against the far side of the room. Everything reflected strength, but there was also warmth here. A quiet dignity. Grather spoke without turning around. "You are wondering why I invited you?" Elias hesitated before answering honestly. "Yes." She dipped a cloth into the basin and slowly wiped dust from her forearms, revealing muscles still strong despite music, the years. "The elders believe my path is finished," she said calmly. "They believe the spirits closed the door of life for me." She finally turned toward him. Her amber eyes studied him with quiet intensity. "But spirits are mysterious," she continued. "Sometimes they whisper through strange paths." Elias shifted nervously. "I didn't mean to insult your traditions earlier." "You didn't," she replied. Her gaze softened slightly. "You spoke truth from your own world." Silence returned for a moment. The firelight reflected off the green tones of her skin, highlighting the faint silver scars that told stories of old battles. She stepped closer, music not threatening, simply curious. "Tell me, Elias Rowan," she said, "do human men fear strong? Women?" He blinked. "Some do, and you." He took a slow breath. "I think strength is beautiful. Music." The words left his mouth before he could stop them. Grathura froze for a moment. Then something unexpected appeared in her eyes. Not pride, not arrogance. Something quieter. Gratitude. She walked past him and sat beside the fire, motioning for him to do the same. Elias slowly sat across from her. The flames flickered between them. "You saw the ceremony," she said quietly. "You saw what my clan believes about me." He nodded. "They think your life has less value now." She tilted her head slightly. "Not. Less value, less purpose." Elis frowned. "That's the same thing." For a moment she studied his face again, as if measuring something deeper than his words. Then she chuckled softly. "Music. You speak boldly for someone surrounded by orcs. I noticed that too." The tension between them eased slightly. Outside, thunder rumbled faintly over the mountains. Grather stared into the flames for a long moment. "When I was young," she said slowly, "the clan believed I would bring many children into the world. Strong children, warriors. Her voice remained calm, but Elias sensed the weight behind it. But seasons passed, battles came. Years moved faster than I noticed. She lifted her gaze, and now the clan sees me as a story reaching its final chapter. Elias leaned forward slightly. Music. Stories can surprise people. She studied him carefully again. You truly believe that? I do. The fire crackled loudly. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Grotha stood. She walked to the doorway and pulled the heavy hide curtain closed, blocking the cold wind. When she turned back toward him, the room felt smaller, more intimate. Not in a dangerous way, in a quiet, human way. She approached him again and stopped only a few steps, music away. You said earlier the spirits might be wrong. I might have been speaking out of turn. Her voice lowered slightly. Or perhaps the spirits chose a strange messenger. Elias wasn't sure what to say. Her presence filled the room like a slow storm, not overwhelming but impossible to ignore. She extended her hand toward him. Her palm was large, warm and scarred, from years of battle. Come, she said gently. Elias looked at her hand, then at her eyes. There was no command there, only invitation. Slowly, he took her hand. Her grip was firm, steady. She guided him closer to the fire. The flames reflected, in both their eyes now. For a moment, they simply stood there. Two lives from completely different worlds sharing the same quiet space. Grotha spoke softly. Whatever the spirits decide tonight, her voice carried calm strength. Let it be remembered as a night of truth. Elias nodded slowly. I think I can agree to that. Outside, the thunder rolled again over the mountains. Inside, the dwelling, the fire burned brighter. And somewhere beyond the storm clouds, unseen by either of them, the ancient spirits of the valley watched with quiet curiosity. Because sometimes destiny arrives in the most unexpected form, and sometimes a single night can change the fate of an entire clan. Dawn arrived slowly over the Stonefang Valley. The storm had passed during the night, leaving the mountains wrapped in quiet mist. Pale sunlight slipped between the cliffs and touched the rooftops of the orc settlement. Warriors were already awake. Music fires were lit. The smell of roasted meat and mountain herbs drifted through the air. Life continued as it always had. But inside Grotha's dwelling, something felt different. The fire had burned low, glowing softly beneath the ashes. Elias Rowan sat near the entrance, rubbing his eyes as the first light reached the floor. For a moment, he seemed unsure where he was. Then the memories of the night returned. The long conversations, the quiet music, laughter, the strange feeling of connection between two people from worlds that should never have touched. Across the room, Grotha stood beside the open window slit carved into the stone wall. Music morning light wrapped around her tall figure. Her dark hair fell loose over one shoulder, stirred gently by the mountain breeze. She looked peaceful, stronger than ever. Elias watched her quietly before speaking. You didn't sleep much. She glanced back at him. Orc eyes were sharp, even softened by morning light. Her amber gaze held the calm confidence of a seasoned warrior. I rarely sleep long, she replied. He stood and stretched. I should probably leave the settlement soon, he said carefully. Before your clan decides I'm an inconvenient guest. Grotha studied him for a moment. You fear my people. I respect their territory. That answer made her smile faintly. That is wise. She walked toward the fire and knelt to stir the embers back to life. Flames slowly grew again, lighting the room with warm gold. But something about her movements seemed slower this morning. More thoughtful. She pressed a hand lightly against the table for balance. Elias noticed. Are you all right? She straightened immediately. I am fine. But her voice carried a strange note of uncertainty. She walked toward the basin of water, pausing halfway. For the first time since Elias had met her, Grotha looked confused. She placed a hand against her stomach, not in pain, more like she was trying to understand something. Elia stepped closer. "What is it?" She didn't answer right away. Her brows furrowed slightly as she focused inward, then her eyes widened, just slightly. Orcs were masters of emotional control, but Elias saw the change instantly. "What?" he asked again. Grather slowly turned toward him. Her voice came quieter now. "That is strange." Elias felt a sudden knot in his stomach. Strange how? She took a slow breath. Music orc women know their bodies very well, especially warriors. She stepped closer to the fire, staring into the flames as if they might offer answers. "For many seasons, I have felt nothing." Her hand returned to her stomach, but this morning she paused, trying to find the right words. Elias waited silently. Finally, she spoke again. "There is warmth." He blinked. "Warmth." She nodded slowly. "Life warmth." The words hung in the air. Elias didn't understand at first. Then the meaning struck him. His eyes widened. "You think Rather looked at him?" Not with music certainty, but with cautious wonder. "It is too soon to know," she said calmly. "Perhaps my body simply remembers old rhythms." But even as she said it, her voice lacked conviction. Elias felt his heart beating faster. Outside, the settlement had fully awakened. Orc voices echoed between the stone buildings as warriors began their morning routines. Grathura walked to the doorway and pushed the curtain aside. Sunlight flooded into the room. She stared across the valley deep in music thought. "If what I feel is real," she murmured, "it will change everything." Elias stepped beside her. "For you." She shook her head slowly. "For the clan." She looked back at him. The quiet strength had returned to her eyes. But now something new lived there too. "Hope among my people," she explained. "A child born after the spirits declare a woman barren is considered a sign." "A sign of what?" Gra's gaze drifted toward the mountains, the spirits correcting their own judgment. Elias let out a slow breath so the elders might be wrong. She gave a small smile. That would not please them. They both chuckled softly, but the moment was interrupted by sudden voices outside. Two young orc scouts ran through the settlement shouting urgently. Grathura's expression changed instantly. Warrior instincts awakened. She stepped outside. Elas, music, followed. In the center of the settlement, several warriors had gathered around the scouts. The elders stood among them. "What news?" the elder demanded. One scout pointed toward the eastern cliffs. "Riders," he said, from the Iron Blood clan. A ripple of tension moved through the gathered orcs. Gra's eyes narrowed. The Iron Blood clan was not friendly. The elder spoke grimly. "How many?" "Music." The scout hesitated. "Too many." Silence spread through the settlement. Grather stepped forward beside the elder. Her posture straightened. Storm Daughter had returned. "Then we prepare," she said calmly. The elder glanced at her. For a moment his gaze lingered, as if seeing her differently, perhaps sensing the shift of destiny already moving through the air. Above the valley, dark shapes appeared along the distant cliffs. The Iron Blood Riders had arrived, and the fate of the Stonefang clan was about to be tested. The Iron Blood Riders descended from the eastern cliffs like a dark tide. Dozens of armored orcs on massive wolf mounts poured into the valley, their banners snapping violently in the wind. The red symbol of the Iron Blood clan glowed against black leather. War drums echoed between the mountains. The Stonefang settlement erupted into motion. Warriors grabbed weapons. Gates were reinforced. Archers climbed the stone watchtowers. In the center of the settlement, Grather stood tall among them. The old strength had returned to her posture. The uncertainty from earlier that morning had vanished beneath the instincts of a battle leader. Across the courtyard, the clan elder approached her. His weathered eyes studied her carefully. "You should remain inside," he said. "This fight belongs to the younger warriors." Grether met his gaze without hesitation. My axe has not forgotten its music purpose. The elder frowned slightly. Your seasons have changed. Her voice remained calm but firm. My spirit has not. Around them, several warriors listened quietly. The elders seemed ready to argue further. Music. Then one of the watchtower archers shouted. They approached the gate. The Iron Blood Riders stopped just outside the settlement walls. Their leader stepped forward, music towering even among the large orcs. His armor was covered in jagged metal plates. A long scar ran across his jaw. His name was Kargath the Eo. Red, a war chief known across the mountain clans. He raised his voice so the entire settlement could hear. Stonefang clan, he roared. Your weakness spreads across the mountains. The Stonefang warriors growled angrily behind the gate. Kargath continued, we heard. Your greatest female warrior has grown old and barren. His riders laughed cruelly. Music. Grether's eyes hardened like stone. The war chief leaned forward on his saddle. A clan that cannot create life cannot defend its land. He lifted his axe and pointed it toward the settlement. Submit your territory to Iron Blood or we will take it. The Stonefang warriors erupted with furious shouts, but the elder raised his hand, silencing them. Grethura stepped forward beside him. Her voice carried clearly across the valley. You ride far to bark like wolves. Kargath, the war archief grinned. So the old storm daughter still breathes. His eyes scanned her slowly. I expected someone more fragile. Grether's expression remained calm. You expected weakness. I see it already, Karath replied. His gaze drifted across the settlement. No heir, no future. Your clan rots. The insult cut deep. Orcs' music valued strength, legacy, and bloodline above all things. For a moment, the entire settlement fell silent. Then Grethura spoke again. Leave this valley. Her voice was quiet but carried immense authority. Kargath laughed loudly. You cannot command me. Before anyone could stop her, Gra stepped past the gate. Gasps spread among the Stonefang warriors. She walked calmly across the open ground until she stood several paces from the Iron Blood Riders. Alone, Elias watched from behind the gate, his heart pounding. He had never seen someone walk into danger so calmly. Karath looked down at her with amusement. You challenge me. Music. Grether rested her hand on the handle of her axe. I challenge your lies. The war chief tilted his head. Lies. Her amber eyes burned with quiet intensity. You claim my clan has no future. Kargath shrugged. It is obvious. Grethura placed a hand lightly over her stomach. The gesture was small but deliberate. Kargath's grin faded slightly. What game are you playing, old warrior? Music, her voice, carried across the valley. I feel life growing within me. The Iron Blood Riders murmured in confusion. Behind the gate, the Stonefang clan froze in shock. Even the elders stared at her. Kargath narrowed his eyes. Impossible. Grether's gaze never wavered. The spirits have spoken again. The wind swept across the valley, carrying her words through the gathered clans. A new life will be born to the Stonefang. Silence followed. Then the elder slowly stepped forward inside the gate. His voice trembled slightly. Grether, is this truth? She turned her head just enough to look at him. It is what my body tells me. The old orc closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, something had changed. Pride. Hope. He raised his staff high. The spirits have corrected their judgment. The Stonefang warriors roared in celebration. Kargath's expression twisted with anger. You expect me to believe this? Grether lifted her axe calmly. You may believe whatever you wish. Her voice dropped slightly. But you will not take our valley. Behind her, the Stonefang gate music opened. Warriors poured out to stand beside. Their storm daughter. The valley trembled with the rising tension of two clans ready for battle. Kargath slowly lifted his weapon. His eyes burned with fury. So be it. Grethera tightened her grip on her axe, and beside the roaring warriors of her clan, the Storm Daughter prepared to defend the future that had returned to her in a single impossible night. The valley trembled with the roar of two clans, ready for war. Dust swirled beneath the heavy paws of the Iron Blood Wolves as they formed a battle line across the open ground. Armor clattered, weapons lifted. The air itself seemed to tighten with anticipation. Across from them stood the warriors of the Stone Fang clan, their formation smaller but unbroken. At the front of the line stood Grather, the Storm Daughter. Her axe rested across her shoulder, its blade reflecting the pale mountain sun. The wind tugged at her loose dark hair as she stared across the battlefield at Kargath the Red. The war chief's patience had finally snapped. "You expect me to believe the spirits chose this moment to bless you," he snarled. Gra answered calmly, "The spirits need no permission from you." Behind her, the Stonefang warriors struck their chests in fierce agreement. Kargath raised his massive axe. "Then we will see if the spirits also protect you." With a savage roar, the Iron Blood Riders charged. The ground shook beneath the stampede of wolves. Elias watched from near the gate, his heart hammering as chaos erupted across the valley. He had seen battles before in human lands, but nothing music like this. Orc warfare was raw and thunderous. Steel collided with bone-crushing force. War cries echoed against the mountains. Wolves lunged forward as warriors clashed in violent bursts of movement. At the center of the storm stood Gryer. She moved with the controlled fury of a veteran fighter. Music. Her axe spun through the air, deflecting a spear before striking the armored shoulder of an attacking rider. The wolf collapsed, throwing its rider into the dirt. Another warrior rushed her. Grather stepped aside and knocked him aside with the shaft of her weapon. Kargath paused briefly as he watched her for someone the clan had declared too old. The Storm Otter fought like living thunder. Finally, the War Archief pushed through the battle toward her. His wolf snarled as it skidded to a stop a few paces away. Kargath dismounted heavily. "I will end this myself," he growled. Grather stepped forward to meet him. Around them, the battle slowed as both clans sensed the moment forming. Two leaders, one fight. Karath swung first, his axe cutting through the air with brutal strength. Gryer blocked the strike, but the impact forced her back a step. The War Archief grinned. "You feel that? Age weakens even legends." Grather studied herself. Her voice remained calm. "You speak too much." She countered with a fast strike aimed at his side. Kargath barely deflected it, sparks flying as their weapons collided. For several moments they fought in tight circles. Karath relied on overwhelming strength. Grather used precision. Finally, he lunged forward with a heavy downward strike meant to music finish the fight. Grather stepped aside at the last moment. Her axe swung upward. The blade struck Kargath's weapon with a sharp crack that knocked it from his grip. Before he could recover, her axe stopped, music, inches from his throat. Silence spread across the battlefield. The war chief froze. Grather's amber eyes locked onto his. "You came to claim our future," she said quietly. Her voice carried clearly across the valley, but the spirits have already chosen it. Karath slowly raised his empty hands. For a long moment, neither moved. Then the War Archief stepped back. The Iron Blood Riders began to retreat. Their leader had been defeated. Among orcs, that was the only answer that mattered. Music within. Minutes. The enemy riders were withdrawing across the valley, disappearing back toward the eastern cliffs.